Hi, I'm Amanda Skelton, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator, and I'd like to show you this pretty card today. And the technique we're going to show you on this particular card is the alcohol ink technique. So I've used the alcohol ink pens, the blends from Stampin' Up, and then I'm also using this is isopropyl, don't know if I've said that properly, alcohol. You can get this from Amazon. This is 99.5%, 99.9%, but you need at least 95% for this technique to work. Okay, so you'll need some of this liquid. You don't need an awful lot of it. I mean, this has lasted me a long time and I've done a lot of different techniques with this, but you'll need the alcohol and then some alcohol pens. So the Stampin' Up blends work really well for this. So what you need is basically half a piece of A4, so it ends up being an A5 card in white. This does tend to show better on white because you need the white behind it to really get the contrast of the colours. Then you want an A6 piece of card, so basically it's a quarter of a piece of A4, and I've taken off a quarter of an inch of each of both the height and the width, just to make it a bit narrower, just to give it a bit of a frame. Okay, so you don't really need to do an awful lot with that. And then a piece of vellum, and again this is a quarter of an A4, so this is an A6 piece of vellum. Okay, so what we're going to do, so this pattern on the front, I've just used one of the dies, and I've used the dies from the Poppy Moments dies. So predominantly this is the poppies with the flowers and the leaves and the insets, etc. But inside as well we have this lovely die, which is really good for doing this sort of pop out and pattern here. So that's what I'm going to use. I haven't really used it before. I've been aware of it, but I haven't really used it. So what I did on this one is I've just used it twice to make a bigger area. You could just do one if you wanted to, but you want to get as much of the colour behind it as you can, really, to get the effect. Okay, so first thing to do then is get your piece of vellum and choose some colours that you want to use. So with the blend you tend to get a light and dark tone of each of the colours. I would say use the dark tones if possible. Pale pinks, pale blues, they don't show up as well because once you add the alcohol, as you'll see in a minute, they go a thinner colour anyway, they go much paler. So you want a dark colour to start with so that you actually get a really nice colour on your finished product. Right, you want to make sure you've got something underneath your vellum for when you start doing the alcohol in a minute. So there's lots of different techniques. I'm going to use a technique, so I wanted it particularly sort of in strips across here. You could do lots of colouring all over the place, almost like a leopard spot type thing, so it's all just a mottled effect. So it's entirely up to you. I think again I'm going to do lines. So basically you just want to lay down, and you don't have to be too clever about getting to the edges of here because we'll trim the edges off anyway. You basically just want to lay some ink down. So, and you just want to, you don't have to completely go over the edges because you're not blending it as you would if you were colouring in something just with the pens. You just want to get close enough to it so you haven't got clear areas. I think I might add, maybe I'll add a bit more of that colour, just a thin bit there. And we're going to trim the edges off so you don't have to go right to the edges either. And then I think I'll add a bit more of this colour. Blue. Now you don't have to do the full piece of this because you won't need the whole size of it, but if you colour in the whole bit, it means that you've got another piece that you've got as an offcut that you can either use on another card, or you could even maybe use it for an extra accent on this card if you wanted to. You could put it behind a sentiment if you wanted to, use it as a background. So yeah, so just like I said, just add on, but like I said, you could do it splodges all over. You can add as many colours as you like. This is really nice to do as like a rainbow effect as well. Add on all the different colours of the rainbow, and that goes really well, and especially when it's blended together. So like I said, you can do different techniques. We're going to use a small paintbrush, and we're going to use that just to gently blend the colours into each other. So this bottle itself has actually got a spray on it. You could just literally spray the alcohol straight onto the ink, straight on top of it if you wanted to. That will tend to give it like a raindrop sort of mottled effect as well. But I'm going to use but you can play around with it and you can try different things. You could spray it on, and then once it goes on to the if you spray you've got to be careful, don't spray too much on, otherwise it just washes the colour off completely. Do enough so that it's just a little bit liquid, and then what you can do is you can then move it around, and then it'll start running and it will look like run marks. So you can get lots of different effects, as I say. Okay, so I've got a little ramekin, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to spray a few bits into there. Because it's alcohol, it does absorb, or it does it does absorb into the atmosphere. So I'm just going to dip quite a wide brush, and I'm just going to literally, and you can see it starting to react with the ink that you've put down. And you don't have to put an awful lot on. In fact, add a little bit on to start with, and you can always add more. But you can see it takes a little while for it to react. So even though once you've put in the brush on, it doesn't show to start with. So do a little bit, and if you find that there's a bit that's really gone uncoloured because you've put too much on, you can just put some more pen ink on it again. Just get your blend marker, and then just add a bit more onto it. You can just keep layering on. If you don't like the look of it, you can just keep messing around with it. Oh, quite a lot there, but that'll probably be a bit. So you can see how that's gone very pale there, because I've just put too much on my, and I'm just going to make that a bit blotty. That's blotty as well, because it's gone a bit solid there. So you can see, and actually it looks a little bit like hills and grass and hills and things. So you can see how this is really spread again, because I put too much really on my, what you can do is, if you want to, you can just do that just to take some off of your brush if you feel that you've got too much on. I'm probably not going to need that bit. I want it to look consistent. So I'm just going to put that to the side and let that dry for a minute. And whilst that's drying, we can do our front panel. So using your cut and emboss machine. So you want to do it so that you've got enough edge. So, and I'm going to do it, oops, I'm going to do it so that it's sort of like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put it through again. Luckily all the pieces stayed on here, so I haven't got to get my pokey tool and poke all of those out. So I'm going to turn that upside down. I'm going to offer it fairly close, but not too close. You don't want to undo the pieces that you've already done. I'm going to put that on and cut that second section out so that I get a nice area for the pretty colours to come through. Okay, so let's get rid of that one. Okay, so you'll need your pokey tool, and you just want to get rid of all your pieces. And once we've done this, we can then offer up the piece of vellum that we've just coloured, and we can see how that goes, if it looks, if we've got a good section that we can put behind it. or if you need to play around with it a little bit more and add more colour or add more alcohol to it. So let's just get rid of all our pieces here. Like I said, this is really nice. It's not, I suppose it is a sort of a bit flowery, but it doesn't have to be flowery. If you put you know, sort of darker colours, blues, greens, etc. In fact, the colours I've done aren't particularly female, are they? So you can, you know, putting more masculine colours behind it, greys, blues. This would actually make quite a nice sympathy card as well. Not that a sympathy card is ever nice in terms of the reason of having to send it, but actually this is quite a nice subtle way of getting some colour without it being too bright and garish, gory. Right, we're nearly there. Okay, we're done. Let's move those out of the way. Okay, so this is where you can see if you've got the piece of vellum. So that isn't particularly that strong a colour, and that isn't particularly that strong a colour either. But the minute you put it behind white, it really does make the colour pop. So actually I've got a really nice area there that I like. So I'm going to get rid of, I'm not going to use that piece because I don't like the look of that. So I'm going to use a piece which is probably about here to here. Okay, so what you want to do is obviously make sure you've got enough to, I'm going to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to work out where, so obviously this piece is bigger than we need. So I'm just going to work out, I'm going to get a big pencil and I'm just going to mark there, there, there. So I'm making sure that I'm covering that area. So I'm just going to get my, and there is a front and back, so the colour that, the side that you've added the ink onto, you'd see it's got a slight shine to it, and it should be the stronger colour. And I would suggest that the colour side that you've coloured is the side that you want to be showing on the top here, because it's stronger coloured. So let's just trim that down. You just need to make sure that you've got enough to glue around. So I can see that's the shiny side. So you just want to make sure that you've got enough to glue around the edges that you can stick it around here. Okay, so that looks good. So you just need it to be smaller than that. Okay, like I said, that doesn't really show anything. That really makes it pop once you've got the white behind it. So I'm going to get my silicone sheet so that it doesn't stick to everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the liquid. I'm going to use the Tombow liquid glue, and I'm just going to put some dots around here so that it sticks. Again, like I said, you can see, you can just about, so this, I don't know if you can, if the light's catching it, but you can just see that this line here where the ink is, it's shiny, whereas on this side it isn't. It's all the same. So that's the side I want, and I need to make sure that that's what I want showing there. Okay, so you just want to give that a good press, make sure it's stuck down nicely. It doesn't matter about your pencil marks because you're not going to see them in a minute. If you want to put a little bit more glue along this edge, you can do, just to make sure that that sticks down. Now then, what I then want is to put a sentiment on this, which I will do in a minute. But basically you then want to glue this onto your front sheet, and there you have it. So you see these I don't know if you wanted to add these, you could add some pieces on the bottom if you wanted to, or if you wanted to make the piece larger than this, cut this panel smaller, and then you could have all of this as your edging, so you've got quite a nice edging around it as your almost like an extra layer. That might finish it off quite nicely, or you might have to do something quite nice with these bits. You could even put a piece down the side, maybe something like that. Anyway, you can play around with that. So I hope you've enjoyed that. So this is the alcohol ink technique, one of them. Like I said, you can do lots of different playing around with the inks and how you can apply the alcohols to make it go into different patterns, etc. And obviously different colorways make it look nice as well. I hope you've enjoyed that. As always, you can find the blends and the Stampin' Up products at www.amandascraftedcards.stampinup.net. And please do leave a comment if you'd like to. Happy to get back to you. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.